How billionaire families stay powerful for generations. Most fortunes don't survive. In fact, the overwhelming majority of wealthy families lose everything within just a few generations. One generation builds the empire. The next enjoys it. And the generation after that destroys it. It's happened to some of the richest dynasties in history. So how do a small number of families seem to escape this cycle completely? How do names like the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and Waltons stay powerful decade after decade, while other fortunes disappear almost overnight? Because behind the scenes, these families aren't just protecting money, they're building systems. Most people think billionaire families stay rich because they simply have more cash. But the truth is far more sophisticated. The world's most powerful dynasties operate more like private governments than ordinary families, using trusts, family offices, elite networks, philanthropy, succession planning, and carefully engineered family culture to preserve wealth for generations. They don't just inherit money, they inherit infrastructure. And once you understand how that machine works, you realize generational wealth is rarely accidental. In this video, we're breaking down the hidden blueprint billionaire families use to protect fortunes, train heirs, maintain influence, and quietly stay powerful for centuries while most wealthy families collapse. Section 1. The problem, the illusion of wealth, and the great filter. The biggest mistake people make is seeing wealth as a number in an app, a static pile of cash. The ultra-wealthy know that's not true. Money is alive. It can grow or it can die. And if you just leave it alone, it almost always dies. The forces working against generational wealth are massive. Inflation, taxes, wild market swings, spreading the money too thin among heirs, and just plain old human mistakes are all conspiring to tear a fortune apart. Just look at the Vanderbilts. Cornelius Commodore Vanderbilt built a shipping and railroad empire that made him one of the richest men in American history. When he died in 1877, his fortune was absolutely colossal. His last piece of advice was supposedly keep the money together. His heirs did the exact opposite. They launched into a frenzy of competitive spending, building absurdly lavish mansions they called summer cottages, and hosting legendary parties. They were world-class spenders, but not great earners. The story goes that by the time 120 Vanderbilt descendants gathered for a family reunion in 1973, there wasn't a single millionaire left among them. The Vanderbilt story is dramatic, but it's what usually happens. It's the default setting. And surprisingly, the reason for this has little to do with money itself. Some of the most famous studies on wealth transfer, like those from wealth consultants Williams and Pricer, found that bad investments or poor tax advice account for a tiny fraction of these failures, less than 15%. The real culprits? A breakdown of trust and communication within the family. The problem isn't financial, it's human. The heirs get the money, but not the mindset. They inherit the assets, but not the ambition. They get the purchasing power, but not the purpose. This is the great filter that destroys 90% of family fortunes. So how do the 10% beat the odds? They don't just cross their fingers and hope their kids turn out okay. They build a machine, an institution, a system designed to protect the wealth, not just from the outside world, but from the family itself. This is the blueprint. Section 2, the dynastic blueprint. Part 1, the fortress of trusts. The absolute bedrock of generational power. The tool that makes all the rest possible is the trust, but not just any trust. We're talking about a very specific and powerful version, the dynasty trust. A trust is just a legal agreement that splits up three things most of us see as one: ownership, control, and benefit. The person who creates the trust, the grantor, hands over legal ownership of their assets to a third party, the trustee. The trustee then manages those assets for the good of the beneficiaries. The key idea here is a phrase you'll hear whispered in wealth management circles: own nothing, but control everything. When a family puts its fortune into a series of irrevocable trusts, the family members no longer legally own that stuff. The trust does. This one move creates a fortress around the wealth. Because the beneficiaries don't own the assets, those assets are generally shielded from their personal problems. The family's core wealth can remain highly protected inside the trust. Dynasty trusts take this even further. They're designed to last for generations, in some states for hundreds of years, far beyond a normal lifespan, to grow and compound for decades, even centuries, without getting hammered by estate and gift taxes every time it passes to the next generation. The assets go into the trust once, and from then on, they can support children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, all while staying outside of their personal, taxable estates. The founder gets to set all the rules in a document, sort of like a constitution for the money. This is where the real power is. They can basically be a voice from the grave, defining the family's values and controlling how the money is used for generations. Payouts aren't just handed out in big lumps. They can be tied to milestones: graduating college, starting a business, buying a first home. They can be reserved for education or health care. This creates a pipeline of support, not a one-time lottery ticket. It encourages people to be productive and discourages the kind of wild spending that took down the Vanderbilts. The trust becomes a tool not just for protecting money, but for shaping character. The Rockefellers were pioneers of this strategy. Starting around the 1930s, John D. Rockefeller and his family began placing their massive fortune into a complex web of trusts. They knew that to last, they had to separate the family from the fortune. The trusts were run by professionals, making sure decisions were based on strategy, not emotion. This is the main reason the Rockefeller name is still a big deal today, having successfully passed its legacy down to hundreds of heirs. They didn't just leave their kids money, they left them a system. Section 3. The Dynastic Blueprint. Part 2. The Family Office, CEO of the Dynasty. If trusts are the fortress protecting the family's assets, the family office is the command center inside. A family office is a private company created for one purpose: to manage the wealth and life. This isn't just hiring a guy to manage your stocks. A real single-family office can easily cost millions of dollars a year to run and provides a level of service that's hard to even imagine. Think of it as the private CEO for the whole family dynasty. Its job goes way beyond investing. A real family office handles everything. It coordinates tax planning and legal affairs. It manages the family's properties, from mansions to private jets. It handles the day-to-day grind like paying bills and managing household staff. It oversees the family's charity work through its foundations, and, maybe most importantly, it manages the family itself. The family office becomes the institutional memory of the family. As generations pass and the family spreads out across the globe, the office is the central hub that keeps everyone on the same page. It creates the rules for how the family makes decisions. One of its most important jobs is educating the next generation. The family office often runs formal training for young heirs on finance, law, and business. It sets them up with mentors and gives them seats on boards so they can see how things really work. The goal is to turn them from passive beneficiaries waiting for a check into active, responsible stewards of the family legacy. And here's a key rule many of these families live by. They build a firewall between the family and the money managers. Heirs don't get to call up the office and demand cash because they want a new sports car. Decisions are professional and stripped of emotion. This structure is designed to fight the #1 reason fortunes fail: a lack of discipline. The family office model is exploding. Some reports estimate they now manage assets somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 trillion globally. It shows how the super-rich are thinking less like individuals and more like institutions. The wealth isn't a personal piggy bank. It's the endowment of a dynasty, and the family office is its permanent administration. Section 4. The Dynastic Blueprint. Part 3. The Human Engineering. So you have the legal and financial structures, the trusts, and the family office. That's the hardware of the dynasty machine. But it's useless without the right software, the family culture. The families that last for centuries know their most important investment isn't in stocks or bonds, but in their own people. They don't just build wealth, they build heirs. This is the human side of the blueprint, and it's the hardest part. It starts early. Successful families teach their kids about money from a young age. But the lesson isn't about luxury. It's about responsibility, stewardship, and the hard work that built the fortune in the first place. They build a culture where the wealth isn't seen as a personal entitlement. But as a collective resource, they have a duty to grow for the future. Heirs learn the money isn't theirs. They are just its current caretakers. This education is planned and deliberate. It often involves creating a family constitution or charter. This is a document that lays out the family's mission and values. It defines the rules of the game, who can work in the family business, how they'll settle fights, the family's commitment to charity, and what's expected of everyone. It turns all the unspoken assumptions into clear principles that guide the family's relationship with its money. They also create things like a family council to bring everyone together, keep communication open, and make group decisions. These meetings are where the older generation passes down not just financial know-how, but life lessons, family history, and the values they wrote into their constitution. The goal is to create a unified family that can survive the internal politics and jealousy that tear so many other wealthy families apart. Part of this is also about getting a dose of reality. Many of these families insist their kids work outside the family business for a while, to build their own careers and get a work ethic that isn't tied to the family name. They might get a small allowance to manage when they're young, giving them a safe place to mess up and learn from their mistakes. This cultural programming is the ultimate cure for the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves curse. It directly tackles what those family wealth experts identified as the main problem: the breakdown in family dynamics and unprepared heirs. The Vanderbilts lost their fortune because each generation got more and more detached from the work that built it. In contrast, families that last treat succession like a decades-long training program, not a one-time event. They get that the financial structures will always fail if the people running them are reckless or divided. Culture is the invisible glue that makes the whole thing work. Section 5. The Dynastic Blueprint. Part 4. The Network of Power. The final piece of the puzzle moves beyond the family and into the world. Lasting power isn't just about hoarding money. It's about maintaining influence. Billionaire families do this by weaving themselves into the fabric of society's most powerful institutions through strategic networking, elite education, and philanthropy. It starts with school. For the ultra-rich, where your kid goes to school is a strategic decision. Elite schools are the gateways to high-trust networks, giving them access to future business leaders, politicians, and influencers. The connections forged in those ivy-covered halls are a form of social capital that pays dividends for a lifetime, opening doors to deals, information, and opportunities you can't get anywhere else. These networks are then tended to like a garden. Dynastic families stay deeply connected in the worlds of finance, law, and politics. They join exclusive clubs and show up at global forums like Davos. This isn't just schmoozing, it's the active maintenance of a power grid. It gives them access to deal flow, trusted advice, and a way to shape public opinion. Philanthropy is probably the most powerful tool for projecting influence. By creating massive family foundations, dynasties can turn their private wealth into a public good. This does a few things. It can be a tax-efficient way to spend capital, but more importantly, it gives the family a noble, unifying mission that can last for generations. It gives heirs a meaningful role and a sense of purpose beyond just managing money. And whether you see it as cynical or not, philanthropy allows the family to shape society. Funding think tanks, university departments, and policy groups allows them to influence the intellectual and political climate. It generates immense public goodwill and polishes the family name, creating a protective halo that makes their extreme wealth seem more acceptable over time. The Rockefeller Foundation isn't just an act of generosity, it's a powerful legacy statement that cements the family name into the cultural landscape. This web of social capital, elite access, and philanthropic influence is what turns financial wealth into real power. It ensures the family stays relevant and connected long after the original source of their fortune has faded away. It's the final step that separates the temporarily rich from the true dynasties. So the blueprint is clear. It's a sophisticated system that treats wealth not as a personal bank account, but as a perpetual institution. It starts with the fortress of trusts, legally shielding the fortune from taxes, lawsuits, and the family members themselves. It's managed by the family office, a professional command center that institutionalizes every decision. It's powered by human engineering, a deliberate culture of stewardship that creates heirs capable of carrying the legacy. And it is amplified through a network of power, using philanthropy and elite connections to turn wealth into lasting influence. This is the system that beats the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves curse. It's not one secret trick. It's the careful alignment of capital, control, culture, and continuity. The families who lose their fortunes are the ones who think money is enough. The families who last for centuries are the ones who know the truth. Money is just the fuel. The real engine of dynastic power is the machine they build around it. If you found this look behind the curtain of dynastic wealth fascinating, make sure to subscribe. We'll be diving deeper into the specific strategies and stories of the world's most powerful families. Let us know in the comments which dynasty you want us to break down next. Thanks for watching.